Welcome back, Focus Learners. We have an absolutely incredible explainer for you today. We're going to be taking a highly structured, super visual deep dive into the upcoming book by author Blaize on Fire, titled Lost, Alone, and Afraid. Today, we are specifically zooming in on the deeply vivid, moving contents of Chapter 1. We're talking philosophy, theology, and some incredibly personal memories. So get comfortable, and let's jump right in.
So, do you ever feel lost? Like, truly lost? It's a profound universal question, isn't it? What does it actually mean when a person says they feel lost in the world, like they just don't have a place in it? This exact question forms the entire emotional core of the author's journey. It's that heavy, overwhelming struggle we all face at some point to find a sense of belonging or purpose.
Okay, let's dive into this behind-the-scenes look. Blaize tackles this massive question head-on with an intense dedication to what she calls the 5 a.m. author grind. Because, people usually just see the polished, finished book, right? They don't see those early mornings. No fancy desk needed here, just her notes, her profound faith, and an absolute fire to tell this story. Literally every handwritten page stems from a deep desire to help others move from feeling lost and afraid toward actually finding their light.
Now, you might be wondering how she structures all this. Well, the book relies on a very specific, deliberate foundation, the 369 method. Because of that, the entire book is structured precisely into 9 chapters. And right now, Chapter 1, which is titled Sent from Heaven, is officially locked in and complete. This is the overarching theme we are unpacking today, and it completely sets the stage for everything else that follows.
All right, moving on to Section 1, the anatomy of lost.
Before we get into Blaize's specific personal story, we kind of need to break down this heavy, abstract concept of being lost. Feeling lost usually points to a few highly relatable emotional states. First off, there's a lack of anchor. It's like being a boat without a dock, just completely disconnected from family or community. Then you have the in-between phase, where one chapter of your life ends, but the next one hasn't quite started yet. Next up is identity seeking, where you look around and wonder, where exactly do I fit into this giant puzzle? And finally, emotional fatigue, which honestly is just the soul's way of saying it is totally exhausted from trying to meet everyone else's expectations.
Which brings us to Section 2, Origins of the Soul.
When a person feels lost, it is entirely human nature to start asking, who am I? Where did I come from? Across philosophy and theology, the perspectives on whether our soul is inherently good, bad, or neutral generally fall into 3 broad buckets. First, there's the idea that the soul is born not good. This is often tied to the theological view of original sin, suggesting a fallen nature right from conception. Second, we have the idea that the soul is born neutral. Philosophically, this is known as tabula rasa, or the blank slate, where your life experiences are what write your moral character. And third, the view that the soul is born good, possessing this innate virtue and natural inclination toward morality, long before society ever has a chance to intervene.
But here's the catch. To even have a moral character, the soul has to actually enter the body, right? The specific technical term for this moment is ensoulment. It's a profound matter of faith across the world, and identifying when it happens has massive implications for how we view our spiritual origins.
So, let's impartially map out these radically diverse global beliefs on the time frame for ensoulment. Some traditions, like the Catholic Church, believe it happens precisely at conception. Other perspectives, like Islamic legal scholars and ancient philosophers such as Aristotle, point to 40 or 120 days, which basically coincides with fetal development. Then you have prominent Jewish thought and Hindu astrology that tie ensoulment directly to birth and that crucial first breath. Finally, mystical traditions like Kabbalistic Judaism suggest it doesn't just happen all at once. They believe it happens in stages after birth, aligning perfectly with a person's ongoing moral development.
Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is Section 3, Spiritual DNA.
Blaize takes these deep origin concepts and connects them directly to biblical ideas of who we fundamentally belong to. According to the King James Version of the Bible, God operates on a divine timeline. There are scriptures outlining a great separation at the end of the world, separating the wheat from the tares and the sheep from the goats. But even more mind-blowing than that is the concept of foreknowledge. In the book of Jeremiah, it literally says, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee," meaning God isn't surprised by anyone. He knows a person's spiritual DNA and lineage way before they ever take their first breath.
Let's bring this down to a very personal level with Section 4, Sent from Heaven.
We get to see exactly how these grand theological concepts funnel straight into Blaize's highly personal childhood reality. Despite dealing with some intense trauma and severe panic attacks as a kid, Blaize always felt this underlying connection to the Most High. She found huge comfort in a simple plaque on her wall that read, "I know I'm special because God doesn't make junk." She didn't even know what a mantra was back then, but she instinctively repeated this phrase over and over just to calmly regulate her breathing during those panic attacks. Deep down, she always felt inherently that she was sent from heaven.
And you can see how this internal spiritual reality ultimately shaped her entire creative evolution. Her character design journey starts off with this pink-haired avatar looking utterly defeated, kind of lost in that dark void we were talking about earlier. But then she evolves. She transforms into this powerful, curly-haired warrior woman king, completely equipped and ready for spiritual warfare. It is such a beautiful visual representation of moving from isolation and feeling lost to stepping boldly right into your true heavenly purpose.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 5, a long way from home.
Because despite knowing she was sent from heaven, her earthly reality was tough. She felt placed in the wrong family, totally out of place in the harsh, cold reality of the South City housing projects. And this disconnect created some incredibly vivid, almost cinematic childhood memories. Take, for example, The Great Pursuit. Just picture this, a tiny preschool-sized Blaize sitting outside in her baby walker with Cheerios scattered on her tray. She spots the older neighborhood boys walking by with their giant backpacks and decides right then and there she wants in on the action. She plants her little toes and starts dragging the walker wheels against the concrete, determined to chase after them, all while the adults on the porch are just roaring with laughter, teasing her that she hasn't even mastered taking a nap yet.
And then, of course, there was the great honey bun heist at the neighborhood park. She was just a tiny kid with wide eyes and a stomach ready for a snack, joyfully accepting a piece of a honey bun from another little girl. But that warm innocence was immediately interrupted by her aunt, the one with the sharp eyes and an even sharper protective streak, yelling out to keep her safe in what was a pretty tough environment. These flashes of memory are really just the beginning of her soul waking up to this new world. She captures this beautifully in her poetry about the soul waking from the void, writing, "A silent drift in a velvet sea. The darkness shatters. The journey is done. She trades the void for the morning sun." It's incredible writing, and it perfectly sets the stage for her absolute most vivid, overwhelming sensory memory of being thrust into this world.
Suddenly, her eyes are open. It's the 4th of July. The world is just a sudden burst of blinding light in the dark. She is a young child hiding behind a car's front tire as massive fireworks roar and explode in the night sky. But right in the middle of all that terrifying chaos, she is being held tight. She is protected by the fierce, quiet love of a young guardian, literally a child themselves, who creates a soft, humming lullaby to somehow rival the deafening noise of the night. It's a scene of such stark contrasts. The adults are nearby, cheering, completely lost in the glow of the grill and the heavy smell of charred burgers and sulfur. The grand finale is literally shaking the pavement. The world is loud, it's bright, it's dizzying, and as she is lifted up and carried toward the porch, feeling incredibly small in this giant, noisy universe, there was just one thought echoing in her mind: where am I? Which leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful thought. Once the soul awakens, and you look around at a world that feels so massive, so chaotic, and so foreign, how do you navigate it? How do you possibly move forward when you realize you are truly a long way from home? Well, that is the exact question driving Blaize's journey into Chapter 2. Thank you so much for exploring Chapter 1 with me today on The Explainer. Keep learning, keep focusing, and I will see you next time.